In 1973, Marvel Comics published The Amazing Spider-Man number 121. It would go down as one of the most shocking issues in comic book history. In it, Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker's longtime girlfriend, was thrown off the George Washington Bridge by the Green Goblin. Spider-Man caught her with his web, but the whiplash killed her instantly. This moment changed superhero comics permanently. It marked a tonal shift in storytelling, where death was not just a plot device, but an irreversible trauma with long-term consequences. This video explores Marvel's saddest character deaths, those that weren't just moments of loss, but defining points for entire storylines, families, and fandoms. Gwen's death is often cited as the moment comics lost their innocence. Before this, characters close to superheroes rarely died. Gwen was Peter's anchor to normalcy. Her death shattered that illusion. The significance goes beyond Spider-Man. It introduced the idea that even major characters, especially women, could be killed to progress a hero's arc. It's still debated today as the original fridging incident, and it profoundly impacted Peter Parker's character forever. Jean Grey, The Dark Phoenix Saga, 1980. Uncanny X-Men number 137. Jean Grey, consumed by the Phoenix Force, loses control of her powers and becomes a threat to the universe. Rather than let herself be used as a weapon, she chooses to end her own life. Her death marked a major turning point, not only for Scott Summers, Cyclops, also for all X-Men. Captain Mar-Vell, The Death of Captain Marvel, 1982. Unlike most superhero deaths, Mar-Vell didn't die in battle. He died of cancer. The story is quiet, emotional, and deeply human. Surrounded by heroes and villains alike, his passing is treated with reverence. This was the first time Marvel tackled terminal illness directly. It also marked the introduction of permanent, peaceful death in an otherwise chaotic universe, cementing Mar-Vell as one of the few major characters never truly resurrected. Uncle Ben first appeared in Amazing Fantasy number 15, 1962. Though often retold, Uncle Ben's death remains one of the most critical events in Marvel's foundation. Killed by a burglar, Peter Parker could have stopped. It becomes the origin of Spider-Man's moral code. With great power must also come great responsibility. His death defines Spider-Man across decades and universes. Unlike many others, Ben has never returned from the dead, because narratively, he must remain dead for Peter's story to retain meaning. Karen Paige, Daredevil, Volume 2, Number 5, 1999. Karen Paige, once Matt Murdock's secretary and love interest, had a long and tragic arc. After years apart, she and Matt reconcile, but she's killed by Bullseye using Daredevil's own billy club. Her death was emotionally complex. She had betrayed Matt in the past, but found redemption. Her loss sends Matt into a spiral, pushing the tone of Daredevil comics into darker, more psychological territory. Nightcrawler, X-Men, Second Coming, 2010. While protecting Hope Summers, the supposed mutant messiah, Nightcrawler sacrifices himself by teleporting in front of a lethal energy blast. His body is burned straight through. Kurt Wagner's death was more than a heroic act. It emphasized the idea that faith and sacrifice still matter in a world overrun with politics, survival, and mutant agendas. The X-Men and readers felt the void he left. Wolverine, Death of Wolverine, 2014. Logan loses his healing factor and finds himself hunted. In the end, he sacrifices himself to stop a deadly experiment, getting covered in molten adamantium. He dies silently, standing like a statue. Wolverine's death was meant to be final, and it remained so for several years. It served as a statement about overexposure of characters, and a reminder that even the most indestructible can fall. Ultimate Peter Parker, Ultimate Spider-Man number 160, 2011. In Marvel's Ultimate Universe, a young Peter Parker dies protecting Aunt May and a neighborhood full of innocents from Norman Osborn and the Sinister Six. He fights through grievous injuries and finally collapses. This version of Peter's death was monumental, especially because he stayed dead. His passing gave rise to Miles Morales, representing a generational shift in the Spider-Man legacy. Captain America, Civil War fallout, 2007. After surrendering at the end of the Civil War, Steve Rogers is killed while being led to court. The shots are fired by Crossbones, but the final blow comes from a brainwashed Sharon Carter. This death was unusual because it wasn't in battle, it was political. It sparked storylines questioning freedom, identity, and legacy. The superhero community was never the same after Steve was gone. Human Torch, Fantastic Four, number 587, 2011. Johnny Storm sacrifices himself by staying behind in the negative zone to save his family and a group of children. He's overwhelmed by enemies and dies off-panel. His death led to the rebranding of the Fantastic Four as the Future Foundation. Suddenly, the funny guy had serious depth, and thanks to Hickman's big-picture storytelling, it wasn't just a one-off moment. Professor X, Avengers vs. X-Men number 11, 2012. During the final arc of Avengers vs. X-Men, Charles Xavier tries to reason with a Phoenix-corrupted Cyclops. Cyclops ends up killing him. Xavier's death wasn't just tragic, it was symbolic. The dream of peaceful coexistence between humans and mutants died with him, and the schism in the X-Men deepened. Banshee, X-Men, Deadly Genesis, 2006. Banshee dies trying to stop a crashing plane carrying the new villain Vulcan. His sacrifice is quick and largely unnoticed. His death is a reflection of how easily characters, especially supporting X-Men, can be forgotten. There was no grand send-off, just a quiet end. That realism made it sting. Colossus, Uncanny, X-Men number 390, 2001. To cure the mutant-killing legacy virus, a host must die. Pyotr Rasputin chooses to inject himself, sacrificing his life for mutant kind. His death is one of the few in X-Men history treated with solemn respect. It was deeply tied to the theme of mutant martyrdom, dying so that others may live. Franklin Richards, Future Foundation Era, 2020. While not always addressed as a death, Franklin slowly loses his powers and fades from existence in some timelines. As the most powerful mutant ever, his decline into obscurity is haunting. His narrative arc speaks to the tragedy of potential lost, someone born to create universes, undone by time and power drain. Layla Miller, House of MX Factor. Known for the phrase, "I know stuff," Layla appears across several timelines. She dies multiple times, usually after shaping reality or changing time to help others. Each version of her death reflects themes of isolation and emotional burden, dying with knowledge no one else can understand. Not all of these characters stayed dead. Some were brought back, others remained gone. But each death left an imprint on the stories, the characters, and the readers. In Marvel Comics, death is rarely permanent, but when done right, it's deeply meaningful. It's not about how a character dies, it's about why it mattered. Let us know in the comments which Marvel death affected you the most. Was it Gwen Stacy, Wolverine, Jean Grey? This has been X-Plained Comics. Thank you for watching.